Thank you for joining the Broadway Drumming 101 podcast with your host, Clayton Craddock.
Buddy Williams is one of the best drummers in the world. He started playing professionally at the age of 8 and attended the High School of Music and Art and later Manhattan School of Music. Buddy Williams' credentials list as a who's who of the music
Browne,
industry. Luther Vandross, Stevie Wonder, Regina Bell, Manhattan Transfer, Jerreau, Peabo, Bryson, the GRP All-Stars, Chaka Khan. Buddy was an integral part of the Saturday Night Live band for over 12 years. His work is heard on hundreds of classic songs. Some you're listening to right now. Buddy has been the drummer on 3 incredible musicals: the original Broadway production of The Color Purple, Motown the Musical, and the recent revival of Bette Midler's Hello, Dolly. I didn't know it at the time. When I started out playing drums, I was playing along to a lot of Buddy Williams recordings, and I'm so happy he's on my podcast. Welcome to Broadway Drumming 101. My name is Clayton Craddock, and my guest today is the legendary Buddy Williams. Thank you for taking time out to talk to me about yourself and your connection, really our connection to what we do as musicians on Broadway. I mean, we've known each other.
Not long enough, brother. Not long enough. I needed you years ago. But when God blessed me with you in my presence to guide me through this path that we have to run down those streets and get in the pit in time before the door closed and make it sound like it's supposed to sound,
Yes.
and not get yelled at by the conductor. And I'm going to be quiet after that.
So I got to tell you, you probably don't remember, but when you were working at Showtime at the Apollo with Debbie McDuffie, my cousin worked with Debbie, and he brought me down, and you told me about this new technology. And we were offline before. You were telling me about, how technology somewhat confounds you today. But back then you had this new, it wasn't a smartphone, because we didn't have smartphones back in the mid 90s. It was
the Zaurus or something like that.
Yeah, and you typed on. You're like, man, you got to get one of these for your schedule. I'm like, really? What's that?
Look, and now we're all walking around with them, guiding us like.
Yeah, you were way ahead, man. You should have just been like investing in that company. You could have been like a multi-billionaire.
Yeah, you're right, and here we are.
For people that don't know who Buddy Williams is, I want you just to look him up, because there's just so many names that I could just rattle off, and so many other people have rattled them off already, but I'm not even going to do that right now, because we're going to focus right now on the connection that we have, like I said before, which is Broadway. Your first Broadway show, was that The Color Purple, or was there something else before that?
The first official show that Broadway will recognize as me, Buddy Williams, is our participation with The Color Purple, because I started from the beginning. I was specially requested via the great Linda Twine. I knew the 3 authors, Brenda Russell, of course, rest in peace, Allie Willis, dear Allie Willis, who I worked with Bette Midler 40 years ago. You got to have friends, that song. I was playing with Bette, and Allie was writing and stuff. So we were on a team together. So it's Brenda Russell, Allie Willis, and then Stephen Bray. He's a great drummer, Madonna, and they were the composers. So Linda Twine wanted me to come. When they say to you, I want you to do what you do, and you go, really? Okay. No. You do what you do. Whatever you hear right here, you do. Yeah, right? You do what you do. And I'll have somebody write it down. And I went, yes, man. And she started notating and stuff. But I was blown away by that, because I had learned from y'all meaning the brothers that are doing it every day. Here's the libretto. Don't move, don't deviate. And if you do, heads will roll, that kind of thing. I mean, silly, but, it was to that degree. But the first official Broadway show that Broadway will say, Now, I've tried to sub on other shows, Sweet Brian Break, Omnipotent Potentate with Broadway. I tried to do Smokey Joe's. They wanted me to try to play at the Wiz. I was always on the road. And I was kind of not stuck, but I had previous, but when I came back to town, I would learn a book. I tried to learn several, I won't name them, but them Disney joints, The Mouse and, but I never got, you learn it and then you never get the call, but I was honored to do from like you do from scratch the work. I didn't do the workshop in Georgia for The Color Purple, but I heard the tapes and the stuff with Lettucey doing that and what's our sister, Adrienne Lennox. Woo! So I thought them sisters was going to be in what it was going to be, but when I got to the official Here's the First Day, it was the cast that we now went under Tony LaChance, woo! And all those folks. So yeah, it was great to do that. Angela Robinson, I mean, I can name them all. And then later on, they had Fantasia. She put her stamp on it, and I was there for all of that. So, and then I had subbed at, what do you call it? The one, Hair. I had subbed at Hair, but that wasn't my official show, but I subbed at Hair, and the same thing, the composer wanted me to do it, and he liked that I was there and played the same tempo that he wanted it to be, because the drummer at the time, Clayton, I'm holding my tongue. I don't want to get in trouble. You want people to look up stuff, you look up the stuff. The drummer at the time, he came in and he played at the tempo he wanted to play at. He didn't toe the line like he's supposed to with the conductor lady. But that was a great experience because I love that music, but to play you have to play it right every night. And that was that's what I was striving for. Then the second one, of course, is our Motown experience.
Yeah, before we go there, let's talk about you were born and raised in New York City?
Brooklyn, New York, Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, Kings County Hospital. And
you went to Manhattan School of Music?
I went to the High School of Music and Art, and I went to Manhattan School of Music. I was a terrible student because I was always playing in the clubs and playing with other people and going on the road. I was incorrigible, if that's the word, without cussing on air, but you know what I mean? I was, listen, my parents didn't have it like that. I didn't really have a big scholarship, so I paid myself through school, but I had great teachers and great blessings of people that mentored and helped me. I gotta say, Warren Smith, bro. Warren Smith, the great percussion drum teacher, he led by example by me seeing the many different instruments that we play in our section, and tried to get my reading together, and they got me through. My university teachers was Jim Price, who was a match grip guy, and he calmed the waters for me because most of these guys were like, you're unorthodox and you can't play like that. But he showed me that it was fine. Of course, I came through the ranks of Mr. Paul Price at Manhattan School of Music. He was a very nice gentleman. He was a great concert percussionist, and he was a big. He was kind of scary, but once you got past the rough thing, like your drill sergeant, he loved you, and he, big Texas guy, and had the cohibas when before they said you can't have them in the building and smoke, and he used to tell certain friends of ours that's on Broadway now that are great drummers that I went to school with. They said he used to say, "You need to leave Mr. Williams alone and learn your lesson, because when he comes back, he is 2 lessons ahead." And my father scared me with it. He said, "I don't care if you are I don't care if you are paying or who's paying it. I want you to do good. Don't half do. You know how you hear that? Don't half do. And my father was a great musician, man.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, who influenced you to play drums?
Well, let's say it in the short version. My dad was in a group called the Charioteers. They're an old singing group from the 30s and 40s. They were in lots of, they were what the blacks singing group for Columbia Records with the with the red label and the gold microphone. And they had hits like Ride, Red Ride, Open the Door, Richard, So Long. They were in several Broadway productions, but Hell's a Poppin', you know, the First Brothers. He went to Wilberforce University. He spoke 5 languages. He could sing. He was a baritone. He sang in, you know, Mr. Boatner. Bobby McFerrin's father, I know I'm off the thing. Stay there. Bobby McFerrin's father sang in Porgy and Bess. You know what's his name couldn't sing. You know, the guy and the character, the main character. Bobby McFerrin's father and my father were tight from that era. That's how far back my dad goes. Bing Crosby, they were on television with Arthur Godfrey. They were the First Brothers on TV. I say all that to say I have that in my house here. You know what I mean? That piano. U.B. Blake is my great uncle, lived down the block. I was around, music and piano and stuff like, the carpenter's kid is a carpenter. The fireman's kid is a fireman, kind of. I was a musician's kid, but my grandmother was a minister at Bridge Street Church across the street here. And playing the piano meant, oh boy, they're going to make me play in church. And, the hip stuff to us wasn't then, you know what I mean? So it was a lot of, stuff. Joseph Joubert is the pure example of him and Shelton. They can play the church stuff, and Jason Michael Webb too. They can play the church stuff and still play the hip stuff. I didn't have that avenue. To me, it was like, oh boy, I'm going to have to play this stuff over and over again. And I had too many great piano players around me. So yeah, I played piano from 3 years old, but not like that. But I was encouraged by the drums because I saw that was my voice, my path. I used to see the drum corps come through here, the African drumming, Chick Webb. My dad knew Lionel Hampton. All those guys knew my father and them because those guys were the guys in those days, So when they would see my dad, Lionel Hampton gave me a pair of sticks, Clayton. Them big old practice sticks, big old suckers look like tree trunks. And I came home playing boom, 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 boom on the door, on this teak door in my brownstone here. My parents, boy, did I get my butt beat. See, I caught myself. That was the way I learned the drums and how to apply it. And my Uncle Yubi was very encouraging of, leave him alone. That's what he wants to do. He's definitely got the rhythm and the stuff. And then I pursued it more and more and more. And then, yeah, lessons. But I had naturally sat down at a set one day and it was over. My Chris Brooks, God rest his soul, my cousin Chris, I played his drums one summer. I think I was 8 or 9 in Illinois. And that was it. And I've been doing that ever since.
When did you get your first drum set?
The first drum set that I owned, I guess, as a teenager, only because my dad really couldn't afford it. But I played other people's drums and practiced on and in school. But I worked. Tell you the truth, I worked as a janitor, not janitor, but like you mop the floors on the weekends. And Dad had these buildings, and I would go do that, and he'd save the money. And I went to Sam Ash and bought a Ludwig standard drum set. It was that blue Strat. I still have the snare drum and 2 of the little tom-tom. And the rest of them, I don't know where that went, you know. That's a lot of years ago. I haven't even thought about those drums, but that was the first kit I got. And then from then on, I got drums. Folks gave me drums. The great Roy McCurdy, who played with Cannonball. My uncle is Walter Booker, and Uncle Bookie and Roy McCurdy. Roy McCurdy was getting drums all the time, so he would give me drums. He just give me drums, you know. So I would take care of them, but they were little jazz kit, and they would fit in my Volkswagen, so I could go play my gigs at like the Cellar or McKell's or Russ Brown. That's all in that West 90s area, and that's how I paid my rent while I was going to Manhattan School of Music and Art and all of that stuff, because I was trying to hold on and be somebody's parent and responsible human being.
Were there drummers that you were looking up to at the time where you're like, you know what, I want to be as good as this guy or this woman?
Roy McCurdy. Listen, all the great gods of the drums then, Max Roach, Billy Collins, but Roy McCurdy, Ayeto Moreira. Roy McCurdy, Ayeto Moreira. Those two guys, if you don't know, go do your homework, kids, because those are some bad dudes. And that opened my head up time-wise, how to approach a piece. Stay in your lane, Roy McCurdy. Ayeto too. Stay in your lane, open up, how to approach dynamics. Roy Haynes, Max Roach, Tony Williams. But my guy that I wanted to be like, since this is the Broadway platform, is the great Grady Tate. Ain't nobody better than that dude, brother. Grady Tate, especially when it comes to what you're saying, Broadway. That guy, man, he played on a lot of shows and a lot of situations, and he was clean. His approach, his everything was very, symmetric, if I may use that term.
So I'm looking up Roy McCurdy right now. He's still alive.
Oh, baby.
He's 85.
Yeah.
Lives in Rochester.
He lives in
born in Rochester.
Born in Rochester. He just got a big award. He lives in Pasadena, Altadena, California. I talk to him once a month, and he's
Count Basie, Wes Montgomery, Ella Fitzgerald, Sarah. I need to do my homework.
He worked with Nancy Wilson until she died. Wow. Him and her worked it. After Cannon died, she scooped him up. We were all under the same umbrella when we were growing up or working together with John Levy. And John Levy was the manager for Nancy Wilson, Cannonball Adderley, Stanley Turrentine, Freddie Hubbard, Les McCann. Ooh, can't forget Les McCann. And there's another lady I think we all know named Roberta Flack. We were all under the same umbrella of John Levy's tutelage in terms of he was the management, because I worked with a young group from Music and Art called Natural Essence. And Rashid Ali created this group and got all of us together. And then when our piano player went to the Army or whatever, he asked Nat Adderley Jr., because Noel Pointer was in our band, Noel Pointer. And then he got Nat Adderley Jr. to play. And once Nat got in the band, his father heard us, his dad, Papa Nat and Cannon heard us, and they did this. And we were at the Apollo, like you said, you remember you saw me at the Apollo. I had been working at the Apollo in the basement, upstairs. That was our after school teething ring, so to speak, you know what I mean? So that's how I got to play with so many musicians at a young age, because the drummer didn't come upstairs and they'd say, tell the kid to come up, or one of them, Francisco Centeno, the bass player, same thing, to scoop you up upstairs to play the show until they could get somebody else or or just keep you there.
You were working at the Apollo and playing several clubs. Of course, there was Broadway that was happening. Did you ever consider Broadway?
I never thought I'd be on Broadway, bro. I saw Selden Powell, the great reed player, go. He lived in the same building as Uncle Bookie. We would rehearse and record at Uncle Bookie's place on 87th in Amsterdam. And I'd see Selden Powell coming in from the gig, coming in from the show, doing another show, and the many different saxophone cases and woodwind instruments. And I go, wow. But never, ever did I think I was going to play a Broadway show. I just didn't, never crossed my mind. So when You Know Who came and did like this to me, I went, really? She said, no, I got this. I need you. I don't want them other guys. They don't want them other guys. I told them I could get you, and I've been sent over here to get it. In fact, she came to Jezebel's. Remember Miss Alberta's restaurant over there down the street from the theaters? We were playing jazz. Me and Andy, we were playing a trio, and we were literally in the window. And she came and put her hands on her hips. Miss Twine came in. She stood there and looked. And when we stopped playing, she came inside. I said, come in. Went outside. She said, I've been looking for you. I said, what happened? I thought. She said, well, and that was before cell phones. Yeah, there was registry, and you had the Sky Pager. But she was, like thinking and saying, I need to get a different drummer for Color Purple because it wasn't a Broadway thing. It was that down home gut bucket or the soul R&B blues. And she knew that I wouldn't think about it. I just play what they want and be quiet. She wanted that vibe, and she wanted what she wanted. And I'm thankful for it, because here we are, me and you talking about it.
Now, you started out playing with Natural Essence. You went to Music and Art and Manhattan School of Music. And
yes, sir.
You were working at the Apollo. Then you were playing nightclubs, and session work started coming.
Yes, sir.
I'm sure. Now,
yes, sir.
I've always been curious about how that whole system worked, and I've talked to a couple of people like yourself that have done a lot of that work. When recordings were happening all the time in New York City, tell me how a typical day would work for you.
Okay, if you had a beeper, I'm being stupid, but if you had a beeper, or they caught you at home, or they left you a message on your answer machine with the little tape running around like that, then you do like that. Yeah, that's me. I mean, I got teased by Dave Sanborn and all those guys because we'd be doing a gig somewhere on the earth, and he'd say, off the stage, on the phone, Buddy Williams. But I was running to check the machine to see if I had a call for somebody for us to work or come do that. And registry was the answering service. Radio registry was the answering service that was like a booking service. A contractor would say, I need 20 musicians. These are the main guys. And then he would have alternate names. If this guy's not ready, not available, get this guy. And if this guy's not available, get this guy. So they would call, and if you didn't answer the phone, they'd go to the next thing. Then when we got the beeper technology to at least beep you because you're not home, because otherwise you had to sit at the, by the phone. Then there's you want to know about that era. That era had a club, restaurant called Jim and Andy's that was right in Times Square area over there by don't say that word, by the famous soup guy. See, I didn't say what I was going to say. Jim and Andy's. And all the guys would go in there and hang out. But there was a registry phone on the wall, 2 or 3 of them. Or they would call the bar itself and say, is such and such in there? Tell them I need him. And they'd run to the phone and they'd pick it up, and it would go right to the registry. And they'd say, I have a this, I have a 10 to the, or usually it's an afternoon, because those guys would do their morning, whatever it was, 9, 10 o'clock job, and then go there and have lunch and hang and cocktails. But they would go in there and wait, and then the phone would ring. And if they needed a trumpet or the violin guys or whatever, that was what did I do? I usually got called at the last minute. I had certain people, clients, folks that I would do stuff for all the time. But sometimes, you know who was late. And I'm not saying their names because I'm going to be in trouble, but everybody knows who I'm talking about. And they would triple book or something, and the people would get mad. And then they'd say, call Buddy. And I'd get there real quick, play the thing. And by the time you know who got there, of course, you know who had a little attitude about it, but You shouldn't have booked yourself 3 times for the same, time slot. And I'm not, no slander. No slander. I saved you.
I'm not going to mention any names either. I have an
No,
idea who
everybody,
you're talking about.
folks that live with us, they know who I'm talking about. There was 3 notorious ones that would triple book themselves and think everybody would wait. And they got tired of waiting. And then some folks just kept me, they kept calling me back. But, every dog has his day and you have to be ready. And, I wasn't the greatest, but I did the best I could. And the thing was, I did show up, shut up, and play the music. And that's been the motto most of my life.
If you like what you hear on the show, subscribe to the Broadway Drumming 101 newsletter at BroadwayDrumming101.com. To continue producing the high-quality podcast you're listening to, publishing engaging newsletter content, and posting YouTube videos, we would appreciate any financial contributions you can make. At this time, we have no advertisers, and we'd like to keep it that way. Our staff is small but growing. We can only produce a show with listener contributions from people like you. There are a couple of ways you can do that. You can sign up to be a monthly or annual subscriber at BroadwayDrumming101.com. You can also contribute any amount you wish through PayPal at paypal.me/BroadwayDrumming101 or through Venmo at Broadway Drumming 101. Or help keep us caffeinated by buying us a cup of coffee or a week's worth at buymeacoffee.com/BD101. That's buymeacoffee.com/BD101. We appreciate any support you can give. Don't forget to subscribe to the Broadway Drumming 101 YouTube page. You'll find more content that isn't featured on the podcast or on the Broadway Drumming 101 Instagram page. Make sure when you subscribe to the YouTube page, you click on the button to be notified when a new video is published. Be sure to visit our new shop at merchandise.broadwaydrumming101.com. Thanks again for listening to the Broadway Drumming 101 podcast.
You go in, they have the music there, the drums are already set up, and the cymbals are there. Sir. Oh, really? So you just go in and play?
Yeah, go play. Most of the places had stuff that was palatable. When you got used to going to these places, of course, I started bringing my own cymbals and schlepping my own stuff, and that's why my back says, "Oh, really?" But I used to have that cymbal bag on my arm, and get in a cab or, and get there and get back. When, those were the days.
And then go play gigs at night.
Yes, you said it right. Burn the candle on both ends. But I really had no choice. But they were nice gigs. I didn't. Some of them clubs were till 3 a.m. I didn't have to do that. They were, I'd finish at 1 and run home and crash out, and then try to go to school. Don't forget, try to go to school the next morning when college. I was playing the clubs and going to Manhattan, or trying to go to Manhattan when I was in town. Oh, yeah, I was terrible, man. I was terrible.
You're doing sessions during the day, might be playing gigs at night, and, there's a thing that comes up called Saturday Night Live. Now, you were the first drummer on that show, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thanks to Howard Johnson, God rest his soul, and the great Bob Cranshaw. They said these people were going to do a TV show. And I met Paul Schaefer. He was fresh in from Canada. So I met those guys, and they said we want to do this at NBC. And I went, I rehearsed a couple of times. I did the first show, and by the time the second show was getting ready to jump off, I left because I was playing. I got offered to play with Bette Midler for a lot of money. I got to say that, for a lot of money, because those days I wasn't first call for everything. I'm somebody's daddy. Saturday Night Live, you would do your performance on Saturday. You would work that week, rehearse, do the camera blocking, pre-records, whatever it is. And then you didn't get paid for 3 or 4 weeks. You didn't like get it at the end of the week or like we do on Broadway. That's another good thing why I liked about Broadway. You got paid right then, Wednesday or Thursday or whatever it was.
That's right.
You know? And that was, to me, and I used to hear about the guys. Oh, can I say this? Yeah, I'm going to say it. I used to hear about the guys that used to get the little mail, get the check in the mail because there was supposed to be a certain amount of musicians on participating, and they were called what, walkers or something like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So some guys got it in the mail. I was like, man, sign me up for that. But I never thought I was going to do a Broadway thing because I thought I wouldn't say I didn't think I was good enough, but for lack of better words, I didn't think I was good enough or I could do it. I mean, I could do it, but I always looked at it as a very difficult, classical, lengthy, you know, it didn't get hip until, I went to see, Zachariah or something like that. And Purdy was playing. I was like, yeah, now and that was way before the Wiz and the, you know what I mean? Like that. But again, and then the Wiz came to town or, you know, Charlie Small and all those guys did that. Timothy Graffin Reed. Luther got a tune in the Wiz. You know what I mean? I'm friends with these guys. So I was like, yay, good for you guys. Good for you guys.
You know, I was going to get to Luther in a minute too, but
okay.
You know,
okay, sorry.
Because first of all, I love that first record. I love most of his records, but man, you know, Never Too Much and The House Is Not a Home and
Brother
Sugar
Man,
and Spice and all
Sugar
stuff.
And Spice, you know. Yeah, brother.
You know, anyway, so Luther had done a song in The Wiz, and he was kind of connected to The Wiz, but you were also working with Luther because you were doing a lot of stuff with him and Marcus Miller and all those guys. And, you know, I guess, I know that they also sang for background for the song Fame by David Bowie. I want to ask you about singing. You also sang on jingles too, correct? Or did you sing on jingles?
A couple, not lead thing, but they say, get over here and sing this. And I go, no. And they'd go, like the Luthers and the guy, Bill Eaton, those guys that knew me, they said, well, I can't say what they said because we're, you know, it's a public thing, but they said, bring you up over here. Come on, sing with your daddy's voice. So I would imitate my father, the baritone voice, and, well, you know, do that thing but that note would be there. And I'd get the little check, but I sang with Roberta, backgrounds with Roberta. I sang on jingles, but not like the multi guys. Like, oh my God! Listen, that's a dynasty right there. Patty, Luther and Patty was the king and queen of jingles, singing on jingles. But Valerie Simpson sang on a lot of. You said Debbie McDuffie. Debbie McDuffie was the reason why I was playing in that phase of the Apollo, Showtime at the Apollo, because Debbie McDuffie, I would do commercials for her. Oh, brother, she is the empress of all of that stuff. She'd get everybody, Luther, Lou Rawls, Ray Charles, you know, the companies would get, you know, they want that black vibe or the soul vibe or that kind of thing and that sound and that vibe. Debbie McDuffie got Leon Pendarvis to do the arrangements, and there's pictures. I'll find the pictures and send them to you of them, everybody standing around the piano. Denise Williams, James Ingram. I'm looking at the picture I got over here. What's Luther and them over here on the other side of the piano and just being bad, you know, talking lots of you know what. And Penn is just playing the piano to get everybody to get their parts together. And then Teddy Pendergrass was singing the lead on one. And there's Roberta standing there with her flop hat on. Everybody's in the room. Each one of them are like,
right.
But it was lucrative. They that, you know.
Speaking of legends, Anita Baker, Mariah Carey, Leslie Uggams, GRP All-Stars, Will Downing, Saidah Garrett, Melissa Morgan, who I love, Jeffrey Osborn, Chaka Khan, Nancy Wilson, George Duke, Regina Bell, Manhattan Transfer, who you worked for a long time.
Forever.
Tom Browne, Luther Vandross. Now let me just stop, because I just got to tell you, I grew up in the 70s and 80s. I was born in 1966, but I started playing drums in the late 70s, and I grew up on funk and soul and R&B and, Cameo, Parliament.
Yeah.
And
Larry, man.
Exactly. But look,
Larry Blackman,
when
man.
I heard, Funkin' for Jamaica.
Oops. Sorry, bro.
And stuff like that, and then of course the first Luther Vandross record and all the stuff from the late 70s. Then I realized that you were playing those records, and I was like, I used to go down in my basement and try to play like you. Maybe that helped with me actually being able to play at the Color Purple, but it's something that I'm just glad to be able to speak to you about your influence on my life. But playing that first Luther Vandross record, did you guys realize what was going to happen with that? Was it something that you knew was going to be special?
Here's the short story of the Luther, that project, the Never Too Much and all of that stuff. Myself and Luther, young Marcus Miller, we were all working and playing and touring with the great Roberta Flack. She, that she's an institution, school of thought, music. You come through there, you learn, you get it. So we've been touring with Roberta, but Luther had already tried 2 or 3 times to do solo projects for himself. You named David Bowie. When Luther was with David Bowie and Carlos Alomar, of course, and the great Robin and Luther grew up together. They were in groups like Listen My Brother, in the Apollo basement. I keep referring to the Apollo. That was an incubator for us to grow and make us to be able to deal with the world that we did, and thus going to the next level. So that Never Too Much record, which, by the way, Never Too Much was the last song we recorded. He said, I have one more song. We did it. Here you go. You like that morning session thing. Can we do it at 11 o'clock on Monday or whatever day it was? And we had a 3 o'clock with Roberta to record a song that she did with Maya Angelou's words, lyrics, a poem, and they had put music. We put the music to it, and we had to be there at 3 o'clock, downbeat. Earl Klugh played. It was a big thing. But Luther wanted to do this one more song. Now, he had been trying to, he's always writing, always writing. So he said, hey, I want to do some demos for my project, because Roberta told him, you need to do your own record. You need to do your own record, but not beating them up, but just saying you need to do your own record. So having said that, we recorded at Media. We did this song. We did that. House Is Not a Home was late at night. Anthony came, turned the bass down to D. There was none of them little 6-string nothing. He had that piece of wood. That piece of wood that he played on looked like it was the ore from Noah's Ark or something. It was old and gray, but the resonance and the tones that he got out of it. Next time you hear that song, when he says that's then they started making 6-string basses. But I'm saying,
is that Marcus Miller?
No, House Is Not a Home is Anthony Jackson. Marcus is on everything else. Anthony, that's why I'm saying this to you, because you like that record. House Is Not a Home is Anthony Jackson, and it's only 2 takes, and they kept the first take.
What?
We did a lot of one take things, and Luther used to say little stuff like, I'm sick of you. So what's the matter? He said, you get it right at first. I said, yeah, but you have you can now concentrate on, your backgrounds and your thing. And he would tease us lovingly, but, and he was a jokester all the time. So, okay, so we did all of those tunes. We do To This Day, and then we go on the road or something and do To the Next Day or something. And then he said, well, I got one more song. Can we do it? And he got time at Media on 57th Street. And they got us in that little studio upstairs near the office. We all squoze all this stuff. The drums, the guys brought my drums. And he sang in that little hallway, which was going to be the isolation booth. And he had these words, and it was and slow down now, got all these words. I kept saying to myself, keep it, because he tried to get it out, how it, the cadence, but he got it, that's them jingles. The nothing about the juice, so he could get it in there. Beautiful. He pulled it off. But then, okay, we did that. Then Marcus always tells the story. Buddy's looking at his watch. And saying, can we go? What's wrong with that one? Because they'd say, you say it, because he ain't gonna mess with you. But it's not. He knew he was on the same session at 3:00, but the singers came later. But as a drummer, if the job is at 3, me and you got to be there at 2:00 to do sounds and make sure the drums and everything is straight before they say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And here's the first song. So, and they like to do a lot of takes. And I'm sorry, I was impatient. Sorry. But the guys would make me say it instead of them saying it. So Marcus always tells the story. Well, Buddy was looking at his watch and saying, hey, we got to go. Do we have to do this again? But never too much. That was first take. And then he worked on it later. But that's because we had been playing together. Me and Nat had been playing together a long time. Marcus, he's a chameleon. He'd get in there and morph himself into the thing, add his flavor. Nat was the leader. We followed and we threw it. That's what got us ready for what we're now talking about. Right. Broadway, where you got the conductors that you go, oh my God, come on, let your hand down now.
You're right.
The singer's going to kill you. Let your hand down. So
I got to ask you a question about. So a house is not a home. It's so slow. Was Nat Adley Jr. conducting that all?
And no click.
Yeah, I mean it's you guys are so tight, but
no
it's
click,
so
bro.
It's so slow, but it's so it's elastic, but it all works.
Here and Now and all that other stuff kind of came later. Marcus called me up and same thing, that the music block where our music stores used to be. I went to that block, whatever that studio was, or Right Track, right above Sam Ash and Manny's. And I brought my stuff and he had a little demo and he said, play. So and then they matched it with the Gizmo, because now the sonic thing, they want to hear the electric thing, but I blended in with his drum machine robot, the computer thing. So that's why you hear Any Love sounding like it's a machine, but it's not. It's me and the machine, and they mixed it so good. So it blended together and it calmed it down, because it's a great tune.
So going back to the Apollo days, when you were working in the 90s with Debbie McDuffie, you had to play with various kinds of artists and play all kinds of stuff, which kind of leads me to the show Motown the Musical in 2013. And
yes,
I
sir.
was fortunate enough to sub for you there as well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. No, thank you for saving me.
That required a lot of different styles of drumming, because you had to play pretty much the entire Motown catalog.
Yes, sir.
How did you get involved in that show? Charles
Wright. Is that his name? Charles Wright? He was kind enough to, you know that I played with Brian Stokes Mitchell, and Brian Stokes Mitchell and Charles Wright are besties, and you know how our business works. I did many gigs with Charles Wright being the producer of a show for Brian Stokes Mitchell. We did a special at Lincoln Center called Love Life, and the lines were, the ladies were lined up around the block, and Charles was the producer and the director, and all we did was like do a Stokes gig. We'd go up there, we'd play. My mom came, my wife came. I'm a family man. They tease me about being family man, but I never connected with Charles in terms of, he was the boss man. I saw him, but I didn't. You know how you say your mother said you better do right because people are watching you. I always say, ain't nobody looking at me. My wife and the families always said, yes, they are. There's a perfect example. They were doing the show or trying to do the show, kept trying to do the show, and it wasn't doing what they wanted it to do. And Charles Randolph Wright, I think that's his name, great cat. He knew. Stokes said to him, get Buddy. Buddy plays that stuff in his sleep. You still having a problem with that? Get Buddy. I'm sure he'll be able to do it. He's in town. You better get him before somebody else does, because I always end up going on the road with somebody and never being around. So having said that now, Clayton, I'm right there with you. But Joseph Joubert had said to them before, I think you should get Buddy. And Joseph and I did Color Purple. We go back to kids, coming up in our world here. But he was kind enough to keep saying it. But so when they finally said, okay, they said your man's name, so we're going to get him. JoJo called me. This one called me. But when I got there, Mr. Wright said to me, you just go over there and play what this is supposed to sound like. And I'm saying it, paraphrasing. And if anybody bothers you, I'm going to be in trouble, but I got to say this. If anybody bothers you, you call me. Here's my number and my cell phone, because you know better than all these folks that are trying to tell me what this is supposed to sound like. And I can't be worrying about this no more. And JoJo winked at me. It finally came together. But I got Motown because of the great Charles Randolph Wright band, Joseph Joubert, but Stokes said something in his ear. And yeah, God puts, I'm not, trying to do anything other than say the truth. God makes things happen. We think we're doing stuff and, we're not winding the clock. God wakes us up and he puts us to sleep. So put me in the right place at the right time. It's the same thing with the next one you're going to ask me about, Miss Midler and Hello Dollies. I went down there, same thing. I went to play, and Bette, I played for Bette 40 years, but I remember I told you in the beginning, I left Saturday Night Live to play for her, but she took care of me and made sure I was cool because she knew I left at my show. And when I came back to New York, I got my gig back at Saturday Night Live and stayed for 12 years. But I got to say this before I get off the topic. It's who you know, but it takes the people like the Zane Marks, the Darryl Waters, the Linda Twines, Shelton Beckton, Brian Stokes Mitchell. It takes those people. Yeah, they're friends and dear family members, but it takes somebody to say, did you call Buddy or did you call Clayton? Oh, well, he's too busy. And then what do they say, Clayton? Did you ask him? And here we are. So I'm sure you've had the same situation. So by the grace of God, these wonderful events happen and blessings, because I sure didn't know what was going to happen. And I'm telling you, 20, 30 years ago, if you'd have told me I'd have been playing on Broadway and hanging with you, brother, I tell you out your mind, because I never thought I'd be a Broadway thing, man. But I'm glad I was able to participate and not, mess up too bad.
Speaking of messing up, now certain things happened in the mid 80s where it messed up a lot of people's careers. And that thing was called the drum machine.
Hello.
When that came out, in the early '80s, did you
The
say,
Lynn,
yeah, the Lindrum and the Roland,
Casio.
yeah, all those drum machines? Were you like, man,
Yeah.
what the hell's going on? Am I going to lose my career? Or were you like, all right, no, I can rock with this? Like, how did you approach it when it started happening?
When the Lynn machine and all those things came, yeah, did I worry? Sure, we all worried. But when we saw how the application could only go but so far, and I mean, they're much hipper now than they were then. Did it impact our wallets and our livelihood? Of course it did, but that's why infinity's like this. It all comes back around, right?
What do you think is the most important thing that a drummer should know about being a success on Broadway?
Shut up, show up, and play the music. Shut up, show up, play the music. The music can't suffer. So I'd rather take the hit for the music than buy the music.
David Sanborn, Luther Vandross, Herbie Mann.
Mm-hmm.
I can, I can go on and on and on. Roberta Flack, all these different people that you played for. You played on hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hit records. If someone were to come up to you today and said, Mr. Williams, I want to do half of what you've done. Just how do I get to, be a success like you? What do I need to do? I'm brand new to New York. What do I need to do?
Well, yeah, practice. Practice and go study with somebody that you can get some. Now in today's age, you can get the iPad and look at YouTube and videos and things of that nature. But I always tell them, though, those little club gigs and those singers and church gigs and things like that, do those, because that gets your chops together to play with that kind of music, different varieties of music. So I say to any young drummer that wants to do what I do or did what I did, you have to not say no and accept the challenge of whatever the music is, whether it's church or Brazilian or bossa nova, boring or intricate. It's all applicable. Go for it and practice it, because somebody's going to call you one day and say, can you play this? I need you to come right now and play this. And hopefully you'll be able to accommodate them and they don't throw you out, and you might get paid for
it. And that would help you play the Color Purple, Motown, and Hello Dolly. And
yes.
And to add on to the advice column, if somebody wants to play in musicals, what would you tell them?
It's not different than what I said, but the musicals, you have to study and listen to those. The Judy Garland songs, that idiom, Barbara Streisand. Look, Cy Coleman wrote I'm naming all these, but them Cy Coleman tunes. Look, listen to that. They were written for a specific, part of the piece. Go to the library. We're spoiled here in New York. You can go to that library at Lincoln Center and just stay all day until they kick you out and listen to all of those musicals. But now with the energy of the internet and YouTube and all that, but you have to study those musicals, man. You really do. And as a drummer, you have to study it and play along. Put the headphones on and titty boom in your little practice pad or whatever it is. But you got to get it in you. You got to hear it. So what do they do to learn musicals? They have to listen to them. Go, just saturate yourself with that,
If you were to tell somebody, man, I made this mistake and I think you shouldn't make this kind of mistake. I did this and I don't want you to repeat what I did. What was the biggest mistake you've made, and what would you tell someone to avoid?
Well, you got to be on time. You got to be on time. You got to be on time. You got to get your reading together. You got to get your reading together. You got to read. You got to get your reading together and practice it. I mean, get it together, especially a drummer. And you can't be clowning in the pit. I got busted for that, but you just can't. You can't. So everybody's not the same temperament. You know what I mean? And I don't want to say the violin or the this or that. There's folks that is their approach to what they do is different than your approach to what you do. So you have to blend in with the rest of the fish in the bowl and don't be clowning in the pit. Those are I hope I said the right three. The do's and don'ts, of course, you gotta follow the leader, the conductor, tempo, conductor. You got him on a screen there in the situation, and he's doing it. And you got the other screen to see what's going on stage. It's hard, right?
I remember when I was subbing for you at the Color Purple, the first Color Purple. Linda Twine had a
she did.
She had a drum metronome in her lap.
Little drum machine with the orange glow, and her hand would go. Hand would go. You better stay with her. Don't care what they're doing up on that stage. You better. Hand would go. But guess what? Didn't we swing with her with that hand doing that? And everybody hated it. And they said, oh, man, it's dragging. And that's it. What I just say to you, bro, follow the leader. And she had like 4 of those machines. So if she left that sucker up on the bandstand or on her podium, and somebody come sabotage it, she had another one in the pocketbook, and she had 2 more upstairs in her dressing room.
The thing
with
about
batteries and everything.
For those that may not understand what we're talking about, she had a metronome in her lap, and she would conduct to the metronome, trying to conduct the people on stage as well as the orchestra. I was thinking to myself, why don't we just get the click? But she wanted to control that. So it was a balancing act between following her and knowing what Steve Barganetti was playing.
Lord have mercy.
I forgot the bass player on that show.
Ben Browne.
Yeah, Ben Browne. I mean, they were grooving their ass off. I'm like, okay, what do I do? And I was like, okay, these people in the pit are like, follow me. And then we're trying to listen to what's going on stage, but she's trying to conduct. And it's such a odd juxtaposition, I guess is the right word. You're supposed to follow the conductor, but you don't want the music to suffer. And
there's our conversation.
So it's like, it's when do you you watch the NBA, and recently inside the NBA, Shaq and Chuck are talking about driving the bus. Like, you're the star player. Do you drive the bus? Yeah, I drive the bus. Shaq always talking like this. And
yes, he do.
So do you drive the bus as the drummer of the show, or do you take directions from the co-pilot who's the conductor? It's like, it's a tricky thing.
It's a slippery slope. As I aforementioned, I drove the bus with Miss Twine because that was what it is. Well, you do that as all. I drove the bus with her as the GPS. I drove the bus with Hello Dolly, with the conductor until Boss Lady got lost. When Boss Lady got lost, I was the GPS to bring her back into the thing. And when we'd finish, the horn guys and the violin guys, they would do the little thing on the music stand. Yay, buddy. And of course, the conductor didn't like that. And then I would go to his room and get ready to get lashes. And I was never smart or disrespectful to him. But, he considered me teacher's pet, which I tried to tell him, listen, I'm just trying to save us, bro. She got lost there. And he says, I understand. Thank you very much. And he never really got me. One time there, he wanted to, but she was so happy. She yelled downstairs later, thank you, guys. Thank you. And all the guys were saying, see, buddy, see. But you're right.
What kind of endorsements do you have, and what kind of gear do you prefer to use?
I've been a zillion cymbals guy all my life since I was 16. I bought my first Yamaha set. I have to say that for the record. I bought my first Yamaha set because I loved the sound, and they had a floor tom-tom that had a pedal on it like a timpani, and you could go boing, 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 and that was Yamaha that had that, and I wanted one of those, so I kind of bought that. And but when I went to Japan, I met I met Mr. Hagiwara, Takashi Hagiwara. He took care of me for all my life, bro. Yamaha drums and Yamaha, they really stand behind their product. The same place that they make that beautiful piano, right down the road is the drum shop, the drum factory. Sakai, Sakae, Sakai. In the old days, they made the drums by hand. It was a factory. Had little ladies with the gloves on, zip, zip, putting the lugs in, and some of them are gold or whatever. And they had a countdown. They would hit the thing, how many products they made that day, hitting the buttons. You go to the fact when you play in Osaka at the Blue Note or wherever you're playing, Hagi would come and take you to the factory. You'd have lunch, but you'd go and watch them build instruments. I've been with Yamaha a long time, and they're very nice people. I stand behind their product, and I'm grateful.
Yeah, you were using some graphite sticks back then? Are you still using those?
Yes, Aquarian. Thank you, Clayton. See, you know I forget. Yeah, I've been with Aquarian drum heads and the sticks forever. But I played with them graphite sticks so long, man. You have these people say, save a tree and the ecology. Those graphite sticks was wonderful. I never liked, sorry, I'm a little picky sometimes. When you're playing on a drumstick on the cymbal, ting, 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 thud, ting, 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 thud, ting, ting, thud, because it's rotating in your hand, right? And the tip will chip, right? Chips, tip, thud. So I love the nylon tips from the different companies, but these graphite joints, they didn't break, and the tips were constant. The sound on the cymbal was constant, and I never worried about that. But that's my thing.
Was his name Roy Burns?
Thank you, Clayton. Sorry. Getting old, bro. I'm getting ready to be 70. I'm trying to remember where I live. Nobody believes it, but Roy Burns came and found me. Roy Burns, he said, man, we played in Chicago or somewhere, and he's from Nashville or whatever, and then he went to California, but Roy Burns, he made his drum heads are wonderful. I love the brush thing that I have to do with the Robertas or I'm getting ready to play with Lilius. Anybody, Leslie Uggams, I always have to get a new brush head for her because, her voice is only but so high, and she plays that old swing thing, you know what I mean? So, yeah, I love them. Yeah, those other guys were good, but, Mr. Burns was supported me for many years when all the other guys didn't, and they went, who?
So if people want to find you like Roy Burns did, where can they find you on social media? You on TikTok, Snapchat?
I'm on all of that. I turned my Snapchat off. Instagram, Buddy. Facebook is Buddy Williams. Buddy Williams Drums. I still have a Buddy record out that I'm getting ready to release some more songs. Buddy Williams featuring Will Downing. He sang La Costa for me, and that did very well. And I'm getting ready to release the whole CD. But the whole project is all in the family because all for the family. I kind of shortened it for the single, the family, but I'm putting it out. I've played on so many people's projects and written and produced so many other people's stuff. Like, okay, for instance, nobody knows that that group of Luther, Marcus, myself, Barry Miles, when we were playing for Roberta, one of the projects that we've done that's now just like what I say about the Infinity, that's coming back, and they just remastered it for the 21st century to go use, is the Bustin' Loose soundtrack by Richard Pryor's movie. And Cicely Tyson's in it, and it's Richard Pryor, and it's no hoochie stuff, and the music is great. Luther has a great song. Marcus, everybody wrote. I wrote 2 songs with Roberta, and Peabo Bryson sings on it. It's a great project, and that's coming out. It's already out now by the time you get this up and running. MCA or whoever it is, but the Bustin' Loose soundtrack by Roberta Flack and all of us. And look at you, I love you.
I never heard this one before.
Yeah, that's the problem. You know what I mean? Record companies, they back and forth. They finally gave us clearance to release it. I mean, Roberta's, been trying to get it done for a while, but I'm sure some of the alumni, I'm not naming no names, but I'm sure some of the alumni have put, kind of cattle prod some of these LA executants who was blocking. Why block some good music? People want to hear it.
Right.
So but I co-produced that back in the days with them, and I've always been behind the scenes, so I bring all of that up to say, everybody yelled at me, when you going to put your stuff out, when you going to do it, when you going to, yeah. So I do have a project. It's just every time I tried to get it done, then COVID happened, and then I had a couple of little health things I had to take care of before I could go forward. So now I'm ready to go.
This is kind of a personal thing. I mean, this
do
probably
thing, man.
won't go on the podcast. It may or may not, because man, I as we speak, Backstreet, Straight to the Heart, all those early David Sanborn records.
Yeah.
Beautiful music, beautiful drumming. Straight to the Heart was the live one, which had Run for Cover on it, right?
Yes.
You guys did that at SIR? Is that where that was?
Yes. But let's call it the real name, since we talking history and you all want to know the real name. The name of that joint is called the Cheetah. That's the Cheetah. The Cheetah used to be where all the live bands that we bow and genuflex to, Earth, Wind, and Fire, and let's not forget Kool and the Gang. Them brothers kicked everybody's, you know what, when them other bands came to town to try to do a battle of the band or whatever it is, they did all of that stuff at the Cheetah. That became SIR later, but the Cheetah is the name of that joint, brother. And I saw Kool and the Gang annihilate the Commodores as we know them, and Earth, Wind, and Fire. And this is 70s, early 70s. But Sly and the Family Stone came and played there. It was a club, but it was a big club with lots of rooms. But the main room was that stage, that sound stage that we know. And then, of course, yes, we did the Straight to the Heart soundtrack, and they recorded it in black and white. Cheap people, but anyway, shut up, buddy. With the track and all that stuff, but we still made it swing. We did that. Hiram, God rest his soul. Oh man, and Don Grelnick, man. Oh, God rest his soul. Don Grelnick died right after we did that. And Sanborn and Grelnick, they played Record Brothers. They played with lots and lots and lots of things. Hiram too. They all played in lots of different bands together. I was just glad to be in the room. And that blue set, that's a custom Yamaha blue set. That's right there. That's a Buddy blue. What color do you want it to be? I showed him. I'm a Sagittarius, so my birthstone is turquoise. I said, could you make it ocean like the ring? And Hoggy took a picture of it with one of them Auto Boy 35 millimeter, and came up. That's those drums, man. Still can't. I miss those drums. They got lost in the pandemic. No, they got the first pandemic, 9/11. That's another horror story I don't want to live. Yeah, 9/11, we lost it. at 9/11, a lot of those stuff.
Thank you once again, Buddy Williams, for being a part of the Broadway Drumming 101 podcast. You shared so many words of wisdom. I can't thank you enough.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. And I still say I'm the rookie of the Broadway drummers, because you guys have done more in 1 or 2 years than I've done in a lifetime. But I'm glad to represent, and hope I didn't disrespect anybody getting down there playing and making a whole lot of noise, because it's hard to play. It's hard to be a drummer in the pit. They try to play it off and say, send in the new boy. But brother man, at Hello Dolly, shoot them up and spit them out, So I'm glad I got to stay, But it's hard. It's hard to do that, and I appreciate it. You got to be an accountant. You got to have eyes all around your head, and still humble yourself to make the music sound the way it's supposed to sound every day the same way. That's not easy. It's not easy. That's why I never thought I could do a Broadway show, because we play the same way every day, the same way. But we figured it out, But thank you for coming and helping me, though, Clayton, because that was a great help, man. Thank you.
I'm glad I could be one of your subs, and it's very, very nice knowing I could be there for you.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Thank you again.
All right. Thanks again.
All right, brother.
Thanks again for listening to the Broadway Drumming 101 podcast.